Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right into the forensic case files of modern elder fraud. We're stripping away the old stereotypes today to uncover the incredibly sophisticated machinery driving one of the fastest growing threats to our financial security.
Look, we have to completely rethink how we view this issue. For a long time, we treated elder fraud as just a consumer awareness problem. You know, the old idea of a gullible senior falling for a terribly written email. But that is just not the reality anymore. We are up against a highly structured, cyber-enabled financial crime. We're talking about sophisticated syndicates combining impersonation, psychological warfare, total account takeovers, and lightning-fast global money movement. Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the sheer scale of the threat, unpack the criminal target profile, break down the actual anatomy of a scam, look at both high-tech and high-touch tactics, address the threat from trusted persons, and finally, build out a resilient defense.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the scale of the threat, and the very real financial impact we're seeing today. The numbers here are absolutely staggering. $7.75 billion. That is the amount in reported losses to the FBI in 2025 alone, specifically for people over the age of 60. That comes from over 201,000 complaints, which is a massive 37% jump from the year before. And the individual hit? It's devastating. The average victim lost around $38,500, and over 12,400 people lost more than $100,000. And remember, that's just what actually gets reported. The true number is definitely way higher.
Moving to Section 2, let's look at the criminal target profile. Why are organized fraud groups so laser-focused on older adults? Here is a crucial point we have to get straight right away. Victims aren't targeted because they lack intelligence. Let's scrap that myth entirely. Highly educated, financially savvy people fall for this every single day. They're targeted because criminals are hunting for a very specific combo: economic value mixed with temporary life vulnerabilities. Older adults often have accumulated wealth, right? Savings, property, retirement funds. When you combine that with life circumstances like isolation, a recent bereavement, or just a reliance on caregivers, criminals see a wide open door. They literally scrape public data from social media and property records to craft the absolute perfect, precision-guided hook. Okay, Section 3, the anatomy of a scam. Let's deconstruct the heist blueprint. Criminals essentially follow a highly managed step-by-step journey. It always starts with an emotional hook, manufacturing a total crisis based on fear, extreme concern for a loved one, or sometimes the promise of massive financial gain. Once they've got you hooked, step 2 is isolation. They will keep you on the phone for hours on end, bouncing you between fake departments and explicitly ordering you not to speak to your family or bank staff. Once you're cut off from reality, step 3 is demanding an irreversible payment. Wire transfers, crypto, even sending physical couriers to your house to pick up cash or gold. Finally, step 4, they launder that money so fast it practically vanishes before anyone can even think about hitting the undo button. And to pull off that final money laundering step, they rely heavily on what we call money mules. Now, a money mule might be a professional criminal, sure, but often they're an unwitting victim themselves, maybe someone recruited through a fake romance or job scam. Their bank accounts are used to receive the stolen funds, quickly layer them through other accounts, or convert them straight to crypto. This rapid pass-through makes it virtually impossible for banks and law enforcement to trace the cash.
Let's transition to Section 4, high-tech and high-touch scams. Effectively, the modern criminal playbook.
Fraudsters have a pretty diverse playbook. Take tech support scams, for example. Those usually kick off with a terrifying fake pop-up warning on your screen. The victim ends up granting remote access to their computer, which lets the scammer actually manipulate the screen, poke around in genuine bank accounts, and build a false sense of trust. On the other end of the spectrum, you have investment and crypto scams, which actually drove the highest reported losses in 2025. These are a slow burn. They build trust over months, showing you fabricated profits on slick, professional-looking websites. But the moment you try to withdraw your money, suddenly there are endless clearance or tax fees, and spoiler alert, the money never comes out. Romance scams use this exact same architecture, just leaning heavily on emotional manipulation instead of financial greed. But what's truly terrifying right now is how AI is supercharging these traditional cons. Think about a family emergency scam. Fraudsters used to just rely on generic panic, hoping you wouldn't notice the voice didn't quite match. Now,
Thanks to AI voice cloning, they literally just need a tiny audio clip from a public social media profile to generate a frantic call that sounds exactly like your child or grandchild begging for bail money. The AI doesn't need to be perfect or hold up to a long interrogation. It just needs to trigger such a sudden, visceral jolt of panic that you completely bypass any independent verification and just send the money. I want to pause here and establish a hard, non-negotiable rule. No legitimate institution creates secret safe accounts for customers in response to an unsolicited call, period. The false security alert model is insanely damaging right now. They call you, pretend your account is compromised, and trick you into liquidating your own assets to move them to some secure government-controlled account. Victims are draining their life savings because they genuinely believe they are cooperating with security to fix a problem, completely unaware they're handing it straight to a criminal. Which brings us to a really tough topic in Section 5, the trusted person threat, when exploitation is an inside job. We have to face the uncomfortable truth that elder financial exploitation doesn't always come from a faceless overseas call center. It can absolutely be an inside job. Relatives, caregivers, or supposedly close friends can and do misuse their legitimate access. This is why financial institutions are actually trained to look for very specific behavioral red flags. Is a caregiver suddenly dominating the conversation, answering every question and refusing to let the customer speak privately? Are there weird, unexplained changes to contact details or sudden, drastic amendments to a will? It takes a really sharp, nuanced eye to tell the difference between a senior making a voluntary, generous gift and a senior being subjected to undue influence or outright theft. Okay, let's move to Section 6 and talk solutions, building a resilient defense and actual strategies for protection. Building a resilient personal defense stack starts with one core habit: strict, independent verification. If you get an alarming call, just hang up. Look up the official number on the back of your card or on their official website and call them back yourself. Next, turn on account alerts for any new payees or large withdrawals. Also, seriously consider naming a trusted contact on your financial accounts. Just to be clear, this person does not get the authority to spend your money. They simply act as an emergency lifeline that your bank can reach out to if they suspect you're being exploited. And lastly, have open, respectful conversations with your family. Don't lock down someone's financial access just because they're getting older. Preserve their autonomy by keeping the communication lines wide open. We also desperately need to shift how we view banking security. I know we all groan when our bank flags a normal transaction or puts a hold on a transfer, right? It's super annoying. But we have to reframe that. Those transaction holds, those seemingly excessive security questions, friction is a feature, not a bug. That friction creates a critical pause, a literal window for independent thought before your hard-earned money permanently leaves the system and lands in a criminal's wallet. Embrace the friction. Now, if the worst happens and a breach does occur, you need an action plan. Speed is literally your only hope for tracing and recalling those funds. Contact your bank the second you realize what happened and freeze everything. Step 2, preserve all your evidence. Take screenshots, write down phone numbers, save every receipt. Step 3, report it to the authorities immediately, but pay very close attention to Step 4. You have to remain hyper-vigilant. It's so common for fraudsters to circle back weeks later disguised as law enforcement or a recovery agency. They'll claim they can get your stolen money back if you just pay them a small advance fee. It's a complete lie. It's just the exact same criminals trying to victimize you a second time. I want to share a quote that really hits the nail on the head. Shame is one of the criminal's strongest protections. This profoundly highlights why we need empathy and practical support, not victim blaming. So many of these victims are highly educated, successful professionals, and they feel absolutely humiliated that they got conned. But delaying a police report out of pure embarrassment, that just ensures the criminals get away scot-free, and it leaves the victim totally exposed to repeat attacks. We have to kill the stigma.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one vital question. If you got a frantic call right now saying your grandchild was in jail and needed bail money immediately, how would you verify it? Don't wait until the phone rings. Discuss this with your family today. Establish a private verification phrase or make a hard rule that you will always hang up and call a second relative before a single cent moves. Set up those defenses right now before the criminals try to force your hand. Thanks so much for joining me, and please stay safe out there.